Hi, I'm Stu from Hive Automation and welcome back to the Hive. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at this Meross Smart Wi-Fi Garage Door Opener. As always, we'll take a look at the outside of the box. We'll get it out of the box. We'll get it set up using the native config, and in a future video, we might even take a look at getting it set up with Home Assistant. So while I roll the intro, why don't you take a moment to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified when I release new videos each week. While you're at it, if you like what I do here and you want to support the channel, there's affiliate links to smart home gadgets that you can buy for your own smart home, including the Meross Smart Wi-Fi Garage Door Opener, and support the channel at the same time, all in the video description. Or you can also support the channel directly through my Buy Me a Coffee link. Of course, affiliate links and my Buy Me a Coffee link can all be found on my website, hivemindautomation.com.au. With all of that out of the way, let's get started. So first up, welcome to 2024. I hope everyone's having a great new year so far and that your 2024 is full of lots of fun smart home projects. So a couple of months ago, if you've been watching for a while, you'll know that I reviewed the Meross Smart Wi-Fi outdoor plug that gave us a couple of pleasant surprises. Now, a few weeks after I dropped that video, a representative from Meross reached out and offered to send me some products. Now, based on my experience with the outdoor switch, I decided that I definitely wanted to try out some more of the Meross gadget. And one of the very first gadgets that I reviewed on this channel way back when I first got started was the Garage-It Wi-Fi enabled garage door opener. And that's been going okay, but it's no longer staying connected to our Wi-Fi network. So I'm a little bit concerned that it might be on the way out. So I asked my contact at Meross to send me out one of their smart garage door opener kits. These are $89.99 from Meross's Amazon store, and there seems to be plenty of them in stock at the moment. And I'll be sure to put an affiliate link in the video description so you can pick one up for yourself without it costing you any extra, but you do support the channel at the same time. Now, it's worth mentioning, as I said, that Meross did send me this unit at no cost to me, but my opinion still remains my own. As much as I like shiny new toys, especially if they're free, if I don't think something is worth your money, I'm not going to recommend it to you. One of the compelling things about Meross as a brand, and especially this garage door opener, is this Apple HomeKit integration right here. And they tend to come without an outrageous markup like some other manufacturers add on when they get the Apple HomeKit certification. The great thing here is that once I get this Meross garage door opener set up in Apple Home, I don't actually have to do any additional configuration. It'll just show up in my Apple CarPlay so that I can then open and close the garage door right from the CarPlay enabled head unit. And I'll show you what that looks like a little bit later on. It is also compatible with Google and Amazon out of the box, and it connects directly to Wi-Fi with no hub required. Now, in terms of other prerequisites, there's not really much. As I mentioned, it does connect directly to Wi-Fi, so you'll need a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, and you'll want to have a garage door opener that has some contact exposed on it for an external button. You're going to need a little bit of know-how in basic electronics and handyman skills because you're going to be doing some really basic wiring here to connect the connectors to the right place, but it's not particularly difficult, and there are some instructions in the box. Now, speaking of the box, let's take a look at that now. So on the front here, we've got Smart Wi-Fi Garage Door Opener. MSG100 is the companion device to your existing garage door opener. Open, close, and monitor from anywhere. Works with Apple Home, works with Amazon Alexa, works with Google Home. Serving suggestion here with Apple CarPlay. Some Meross branding. Open the garage door. Auto close. Operation history. Security pin code. Door notification. Sound alarm. Work with CarPlay. Technical specifications. 5 volt 1 amp input. 3.7 by 1.8 by 0.9 inches excluding the power cord. Power cord is 4.9 feet, sensor wire is 23 feet, wireless standard 802.11bgn 2.4 GHz, fires iOS 13 or later, Android 6 or later, an existing 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi network, some compliance logos, some small print, a 1-year warranty, support details, and that is about it for the outside of the box. We'll note before we get into the box that there is a variant of this unit that does not have the Apple HomeKit. So if you are picking one of these up for yourself, just be aware that there are two different variants. One of them has the Apple Home and the other one does not. With the outside of the box covered off now, let's head over to the unboxing bench and get it out of the box. So over on the unboxing bench, and I stood the box up on its spine so that I could run a blade through the plastic dot sticker that was holding down the front seam. Then I was able to open up the top of the box, revealing 3 smaller boxes inside. Grabbing the first one at the top left and opening it up, we have the garage door controller itself with a USB power lead with a decent amount of length on it. There's also a quick connector for the reed switch, which we'll see shortly, and there's a decent pigtail to connect to the garage door motor contact. The second box on the left here has the reed switch inside, and it's got a massively long cable on it, that 23 feet that we mentioned before. And there's a baggie in here with some additional hardware, which we'll get to a bit later. Then the last box inside the outer box just contains the power adapter. It is a USB-A output, so it's 5 volts at 1 amp for 5 watts total. In the main box, there's also a 7 things you need to know about HomeKit booklet and the user manual that tells you how to set it up and how to pair it. So with everything plugged into the relevant places, I'll start grabbing the other bits and pieces out of the hardware bag, including the magnet for the reed switch. There's a zip tie and some double-sided tape that's cut up into smaller chunks. The unit does seem to be pretty well built, and it kind of looks a little bit like a Sonoff with a USB power input. And I've heard of people using something like a Sonoff or a Shelly for this very purpose. With everything laid out on the table now, let's get it set up. So now we're going to need to head out to the garage and install the unit onto the garage door motor. We'll need to figure out installing the reed switch onto the garage door as well. Before we do that though, the Train and Hobby Show is back for 2024. Running this year on the 16th and 17th of March at Sandown Racecourse and Entertainment Centre. There's makers, arts and crafts, model railways, radio control models, ham radio and electronics, computing and home automation, that's where I'll be. And for the very first time this year, we've also got trading cards and pop culture at the Train and Hobby Show. I'll be at the Train and Hobby Show again for 2024, showcasing smart home gadgets and home automation using Home Assistant. Tickets are already available, and it's sure to be a great family day out. We are currently looking for exhibitors and sponsors for the Train and Hobby Show for 2024. So if you want to come along and showcase your hobby, promote your hobby-based store, or you just want to showcase your brand to the thousands of families that we're expecting to come through this year, be sure to get in touch or purchase your tickets for the Train and Hobby Show all via the website trainandhobbyshow.com.au. That's trainandhobbyshow.com.au. Now back to the Meross garage door opener. So to start with, I had to remove the plastic cover from the garage door opener to locate the screw down terminals where the Garage-It was connected and then disconnect the Garage-It. I did have the presence of mind to remember to turn the power off before opening up the controller in case I hit something live by accident. Once I got the cover off, I was able to disconnect the Garage-It and connect up the Meross to the same terminals that I disconnected the Garage-It from. I did also notice while I was up there that the light bulb in the controller, which to be brutally honest is fairly useless anyway, had blown, so I'll need to add one of those to my shopping list. I wonder if I can get an LED, maybe even with RGB. So once the new Meross controller was wired into the correct terminals, I plugged everything back into power and realized to test it that there's a button on the controller which would be a good way to make sure that it was doing what I expected. So I pressed it and the garage door started opening, but it stopped pretty quickly. I did put that down to not having set anything up properly yet though. There's some aggressive debouncing on the button and it wouldn't let me trigger the relay again for about another 5 seconds or so. I ran it through another test and this time it opened and closed the whole way without any issue, so I was pretty happy. I turned the power back off and got to work putting the cover back onto the garage door motor. I then grabbed a brush, a rag and some isopropyl alcohol to start cleaning up the top surface of the control box, thinking that that was where I was going to mount the Meross controller, but I ended up deciding to mount it on the side of the controller instead with some Gorilla brand double stick tape. This is not a sponsored section, but it is good stuff. Why I mounted it on the side, core reason was so that I could scan the Homekit pairing code without having to get up on top of the ladder, but also so that I could see the status LED. For the purpose of testing, I plugged the reed switch cable in and I just had it hanging down on the ladder so that I could see how it would operate. At this point, I still needed to figure out running the cable and mounting the reed switch to the garage door. I've got a solution in mind, but it requires a trip to Bunning, which I did off camera. With it all installed, we can now pair it up. So the pairing was a little bit of a mission. I first started the pairing using the Meross native app, which triggered the HomeKit setup, but after 5 minutes of waiting, the pairing timed out. So I decided to try again and I reset the Meross controller by holding the button down until I got the flashing green and amber light again. Started trying the Meross pairing again, but thought better of it and ended up opening up Apple Home to pair through that directly. And this time it was a success and it was very quick to pair. I was quickly prompted to choose which room the garage door was in, and unsurprisingly, I chose garage. I changed the name from Smart Garage Door Opener to just Garage Door, and I skipped enabling any of the HomeKit automations because they're probably not ideal, except for turning the light on when the door opens, but I don't want to have an automation in HomeKit and then potentially another automation in Home Assistant and then get confused about who's doing what and drive myself crazy. With the garage door now added, I opened up the garage room in HomeKit and scrolled down to see that it thought that there was an obstruction in the garage door, suggesting that HomeKit initially thought that the reed sensor is an obstruction sensor, not a reed switch. Despite it reporting an obstruction, I was still able to trigger the garage to both open from HomeKit and then close as well. And then by drilling into the accessory settings, we could take a closer look at some of the settings in here. There's not really a whole lot, but we can change the name and we can also see obstruction detected in here. It started off as a yes, but changed to no when I opened the reed switch a bit later on, and it never returned to yes, even when the reed switch was put back. So I'm not too sure what's going on there. I'm curious to open up the unit to see if I can add a second sensor, like an obstruction beam sensor, to add more useful data and control. The automations that we see here in HomeKit are the same as what we saw during the setup. And there's also suggested scenes like arriving home, the good night scene, and the leave home scene. In status and notifications, we can include the garage door opener in home summaries, and we can turn activity notifications on or off. But you can also set conditions like certain times of the day or when certain people are either at home or not at home. There's the usual HomeKit data here as well, including the manufacturer details, the serial number, the model number, and the firmware version, and there's also the remove accessory button to remove it from HomeKit. Above the manufacturer details, we also see there's a link in here to take you back to the Meross app. Now, if we didn't already have the Meross app installed, we'd have a link here to the App Store to install it. So when we open the Meross app, and once we're there, we can hit the plus button in the top right-hand corner. And it's found an unbound device in this network, and it shows the Smart Garage Door Opener, and I can tap Add next to that. It says it'll take a minute, and then when I get the blue check mark next to it, I can head back to the home page. I moved the reed switch and it reflected the change pretty quickly, and when I went to tap on the garage door, I was presented with a firmware update prompt that claimed to fix an issue of incorrect history records and fix potential issues with the automatic closing function. I ran the update, which took a few minutes, and once it was up to date, I was able to head back to the homepage, and by tapping the little grey boxes and lines in the top right corner of the tile to access the device settings, we can then see and change the name in here. I'm not too worried about that because I'm going to be using it mostly with Homekit, but I might change this later if I need to, possibly when we start playing around in Home Assistant integrations. We can turn the LED on and off here if we want to. I'm not sure why you would turn it off. I think it's actually quite useful to have the LED on so you can see the wireless status, etc. There's a link here to the user manual. It ended up taking too long to load, so I just backed out of it. And there's also operation history in there, so you can see the logs of when the garage door was opened and closed. Now, if you're using Google Home, you can set a PIN code that's then required before the garage door will open. And there's settings here to also enable either Amazon or Google Assistants. In the door notification section, we can turn off the notifications for the door opening or closing. And there's options here as well to set a notification if the door is still open past a certain time of night, or if the door is left open for more than a preset amount of time, which is 15 minutes by default. There's also an overtime close function to automatically close the garage door if it's been left open for too long. And the same for a fixed time close to automatically close it if it's open at a particular time. Honestly, not sure if either of these are a good idea though, because you might have the car halfway out of the garage door, servicing the brakes or something like that, and you don't really want the door to close on the car, etc. If there's an opportunity to add an obstruction sensor, then that might be okay, provided it adds a lockout feature. In the advanced settings, we can set the opening time, the trigger duration, and whether or not we want the closing alarm on. I ended up changing the trigger time to 1 second, and then I timed the garage door opening at 18 seconds. So I set the opening time to 20 seconds. It seems this only really changes how long the door reports a status of opening before it then says open. And then the closing alarm was a little bit of a surprise. I turned it on and closed the door, and it let out a series of beeps when the door started closing to let me know that it was closing the door. I liked that feature, so I left it turned on. In the device time section, it's pretty self-explanatory here. We've got the time zone, the time and date settings, including location with longitude and latitude for accurate sunset and sunrise data. In the device info section, we can get our HomeKit setup code again if we need it. We've got the Wi-Fi signal shown there with 100%, the model number, the firmware version, the hardware version, and the hardware MAC address if we want to give it a static IP a bit later on our router. There's a feedback compatibility issue button here to send feedback to Meross if you're having compatibility problems with the garage door opener. And there's the remove device button, which does what it says on the box. So for now, there's not really much need for me to integrate the garage door opener with Home Assistant, although it would provide me with data about the open and closed state from the garage door opener itself, rather than relying on the separate Zigbee reed switch that I have on the garage door. I will explore getting Meross gadgets into Home Assistant in a future video though, and we'll hopefully be able to get this Meross garage door unit into Home Assistant at that time. For now though, I'm happy using this just in Apple HomeKit. So that's the Meross Smart Wi-Fi Garage Door Opener. At $89.99 for the HomeKit compatible version or $69.99 for the non-HomeKit version, I honestly think this is pretty good value. Even if you're an Android household, it's probably worth getting the HomeKit version anyway, in case something changes down the line. For the extra 20 bucks, I think it is worth having Apple HomeKit compatibility there as well. Pretty much everything that you need to get going is included in the box, with perhaps the exception maybe of some cable management hardware for the reed switch cable, which is quite long. But to be honest, that's a reasonably easy problem to solve. Ended up getting some cable tie mounts from Bunnings and zip tying the cable along the top of the rail that the door runs along, making sure that it wasn't going to foul on any moving parts. Then I ran the cable across the wall with more zip tie mounts, and finally down to a location on the door frame where I could mount the reed switch with double-sided tape and the magnet in a position that was going to trigger it when the door was in the closed position. After thoroughly testing that everything was working as expected, I'm really happy with the outcome. As mentioned, some people have modified other things to do the same thing, like a Sonoff or a Shelly, but I think the addition of the reed switch sensor built into the unit makes for a more compelling offering. And because it's a HomeKit native garage door opener, I don't have to do any trickery in Home Assistant or another third-party product to make it show up in Apple CarPlay. So I can open or close the garage door when I'm close to home right from the head unit of the car. I do want to give a massive thank you to Meross for sending this unit out to me at no cost. If you're interested in picking one of these up for your own smart home, check out the affiliate link in the video description to both support Meross and Hive Automation at the same time without it costing you any extra from the Meross Amazon store. As always, leave your thoughts about the Meross Smart Wi-Fi Garage Door Opener in the comments section down below. That's all we have for this video, and I do hope that it helped you in your smart home journey. Be sure to drop a comment down below with a home automation idea that you'd like to see me cover in a future video. And don't forget to follow Hive Automation on Instagram and Facebook. If you liked this video, hit the thumbs up button down below to give it a like. And if you're not already subscribed, now's a great time to think about changing that. And while you're at it, if you hit the bell icon, you'll get notified when I release new videos each week. Lastly, if you like what I'm doing here and want to help to support the channel, there is a Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below. Any contribution you make through Buy Me a Coffee does get to put towards making more and hopefully better content for you to enjoy. Don't forget to check out my website, hivemindautomation.com.au. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Stu from Hive Automation, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.